remember before you left for Glasgow.
Yeah.
I remember you hinting about.
Yeah.
You were going to write this record.
Yeah. That was when I had the initial idea of it.
Yeah. And you even hinted that you were going to play guitar and sing it.
Yes. And the funny thing with that was that. So I moved back to Glasgow from London the first time on an overnight megabus. I would not recommend it.
Lord have mercy.
And not only that, it was like a replacement bus as well. It's not like it was a Megabus Gold or anything. This was like an old rickety bus that had like no legroom, and that overnight bus was like 8 to 10 hours, something like that. And I was already feeling pretty quite emotional about the fact that I was leaving London because, well, you know, you were around the first time I lived in London. I didn't have a great time here.
You didn't do London well, no.
Thankfully, I've come back and actually now feel a lot more at home and at peace with this place, and I actually quite like London now. But at that time, it all got too much for me. Hence the decision to move back to Glasgow, where I'd lived previously, where I went to uni. I've got friends and family up there, and like it felt like I needed to almost hit the reset button a little bit.
Yeah. And
I basically wrote that entire record on that bus.
Jesus is Lord.
So I got on this bus, had no legroom. It was cramped. It was just horrible. I'm already like kind of a bit of a state because I'm like, and it was weird because that day I remember was like kind of a normal day for me. I remember it was a Saturday. I went to a Dulwich Hamlet game.
Shout out Dulwich Hamlet.
I then worked a door shift at a gig at St. John Hackney Church. I believe it was the singer of Live to Experience. What's his name? Pearson, something like that. Anyway, I can't remember. Josh T. Pearson. That's the guy. And then I went to the bus station and I just left London, basically. And because I don't really... I'm, as being quite tall, I don't travel that well necessarily, and I certainly pretty much can't ever go to sleep. So, you know, this is an overnight bus where I was awake for basically all of it. I think I maybe got like an hour or so sleep towards the end of it, like as the light was coming up. And what I decided to do was like, well, this is a perfect situation for me to actually get all these thoughts out. And I essentially wrote like what would become the album, but initially it was kind of like it was almost like a very long diary entry of like recapping on what the hell had happened over the last 2 years. And you know, it's all kind of stuff about my interactions and relationships with other people, but then also how I felt about myself during those times, and that essentially is the majority of the record. There is one song, the title track, Unreal City, which is specifically about London and my experience of it, but the rest is all generally about other people, or myself, my role within that. And yeah, I wrote this massive kind of piece while I was on this bus because I had the time and nothing else to do. And then once I'd kind of felt like I'd written kind of everything I needed to say over like a good... I was probably writing for about 4 or 5 hours because I had the time. And then kind of put it away. And I don't think I actually touched it again for a couple of weeks, partly because, you know, I was moving city and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff you need to do whenever you move and blah blah blah, and finding
sorted out
flat. Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure you were down in London like a week later for another gig.
I had to come back and play a show with my other band Post Louis. So like that was the thing. I like moved from London, but then was literally back like a week and a half later, and stayed in this very building. In fact, like indeed. Missed my flight back.
Indeed, you did.
And had to get another bus. But that's you know,
that was a lot went on this time.
Yeah, it was probably like, I think it was around Christmas once we'd been settled into the new, where we moved to in Glasgow, and that was when I came back to this like long sort of diary entry, I guess, that I'd written, and came back to reading through it and going, okay, how can I turn these into songs? And I just started kind of like plucking what I felt like were the most sort of important sentences or phrases that I'd written down during this kind of like long, slightly manic kind of session, and started forming songs out of them. Like I'm pretty sure it was over Christmas, New Year, because I had the time to actually just sit down with my guitar. And I think I would have written the music, the majority of it, like over the space of maybe a week. Usually like after my partner at the time had gone to sleep and I was just like not really tired yet, so I was like, oh, you know what, this is a good opportunity for me to work on this a bit more. Until I basically had the bare structure of an album on my hands, which is the first time that's ever happened to me, because I've only ever really written like one or two songs here and there when I felt like a bit inspired, but like usually I wouldn't I'd like write it and then a couple of days later come back to it and not be particularly happy with it. Also because, as I said, like I'd up until that point always been in kind of other people's bands, I suppose. I mean, like there was a preamble to Frauen the first time I lived in Glasgow with the same drummer Joe, our old band, Great Cop. I kind of shared some of the songwriting there, so like I had done it a little bit before, but this was the first time where it was like, okay, this is you, this is me, yeah. And then took it to the other guys and we fleshed it out, and within a couple of months we had a record on our hands, which was pretty crazy.